there'll always be this grain of doubt of, but you're not good enough and you have to work harder. And whereas now I feel like there is a very strong message of, no, but I'm telling you that you don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to. You are choosing to do that if you want to. But I'm telling you, you don't need to worry about that. I'm telling you, you just need to be, and everything's going to be okay. And in fact, there's so many amazing things you're going to do for people if you stop fucking worrying about whether you're worth it or not.
It's fabulous today to be talking with Gigi, who has had quite a radical transformation, I would say, in the speed in which it's all taken place. And it's all pretty new, I believe, from pretty much February this year. But we're going to unpack more of this.
Thanks for having me, Ian.
Can you give me your life snapshot in 2 minutes? Who is Gigi and how did she come to be?
I was born in the States. My dad was a banker. My dad's from Singapore. My mum is Malaysian Chinese, very poor. So I was born and we left. We went to the UK. This was with my dad's work. In the UK for, I don't know, 5, 6 years. And so then they went to Hong Kong, but my mum didn't like Hong Kong. We went to Singapore. Apparently I didn't like Singapore. And so we ended up in Australia. But in the 80s in Australia, there was this thing called parachute families. What this meant was, because there was more money to be made in Asia, the dad would fly and work in Asia and then fly back to visit the family being in Australia, where there's nice schools and it's, a nice family lifestyle. So mum and I were in Sydney and my dad lived in Hong Kong until they split up when I was like 12. I don't think my parents really liked each other very much. But anyway, that's another story. And both parents were very quirky in their own ways. So my dad, a staunch Catholic, huge Catholic. Yeah, and my mum, while she might say that she's Catholic, has so many really deep influences of what Chinese culture is. So ancestral worship, for example, or Taoism or Confucianism, what she would try and teach me about what it meant to be Chinese. There was a lot of like these flavors, which as an adult, again, I think it's funny because a lot of these things conflict actually, but it was just the way that I grew up. And then there was my dad. My dad was very forceful when it came to Catholicism. We had a hard time with him about it. I think there were other relational things going on as well. But yeah, he was quite forceful with, I think it brought him a lot of joy. It brought him a lot of relief. And there must have been a lot of stuff that he was carrying that he needed God in that way. However, growing up with a father that was like, go to church, read the Bible, Jesus will save you, go to church, like, whatever question you ask, it's like, well, if you pray to God, then you'll have the answer. Like, if you speak to Jesus, it was to the point that all of us kind of got we don't really want to know. And it, like, we are not connecting here and you're not actually listening to us and you're not here. There's a Bible in between us.
After your parents separated when you were 12 years of age, did you spend the majority of the time with your mother or your father, or was it equally shared?
Oh, just my mom. So in the times that my dad was living in Hong Kong, I saw him 3 times a year and maybe 3 days each. And the 3 days wasn't even for me. He would come to Sydney and there would be business meetings and big important people he had to meet. So I think, if I'm being really honest, it was a really sad, lonely, devastating time for a young girl that wouldn't have understood what was going on. I'm sure the same for my mum as well, but, mum did the best she could to hold family together. But what I remember of my dad when I was younger, I was like daddy's girl. When we used to live together, I was an only child at that time. And there's basically massive father wounds there and profoundly sad, I think. And I think, what was it that I learned? It's like my very first heartbreak. It was like my little heart was like torn apart because it's the first man that's meant to love you. Yeah, it was really sad.
For sure.
So I lived with mum, but we didn't go to church. Meanwhile, at home, we had cultural practices, like ancestral stuff, being Chinese. I've always had a bit of a questioning nature. I've always been searching for something, and I'm curious, and I have ADHD. So like all the different stories and things, or just trying to make sense of all the things that interest me and all the things that spark joy or that I'm curious about.
This quest to discover things, to search, to be curious, what kind of paths did that lead you down
I know that I've always felt that God existed and he was there. And in what shape or form or how I was meant to love him, that part I didn't know. But I felt very strongly that he existed. One of my best friends around this time was a Christian. Ever so often, I'd be like, can I join you going to church? And I went once or twice. I'd go, I'm curious, and I'm like, oh, this is weird, and I wouldn't want to go. But I felt like the doors were always open to be curious about it. But I was curious in other things as well. A number of years ago when I moved back to Sydney, when I came to Sydney, mum gave me a box of all of my high school stuff. She's like, you should really take this stuff because it's been taking up space in the garage. Went through all these books that I was into when I was 16, and it was a lot of mysticism books, like there was like horoscopes and palm reading and the Celestine prophecy and the secret. There was like a mystic area that I was growing in. Oh, and when I was in uni, I was the vice president of the Sydney University Mystic Society,
Okay.
which, I quite enjoyed. Um, so I want to say there was like a little bit of searching, but not really dedicated. I think because when I'd ask a question, the answers that were given did not satisfy what I was hoping to hear, or maybe I wasn't ready to hear the answer or whatever. So whatever steps I took forward to be curious was always like, no, this isn't for me. And then I'd come back. I think really my nature has been, because of the brain, it's just been excited by lots of different things, and it knows lots of different ways to tell different stories. I've always been a feelings person, always been very empathetic. I've always had a lot of feelings, was very sensitive, but my brain was very, very strong. So I had a very big career doing all the things that I thought that I had to do. But maybe, I don't know, you could tell this story. I reached the end of the road, midlife crisis, could be mental health, could have been COVID, whichever way you want to say it. It hit the end of the road where I was like, this doesn't work for me. And wanting to live the values that I am talking about, I can't take any more steps, knowing that what I'm doing is actually really different to what I'm saying and what I want. So it kind of hit like and you could argue that's probably where the beginning of my story is, or like, the journey to Christ. But ultimately that's the arc, the beginning arc, I want to say,
Yeah.
of like how I am, who I am as a person, and then how I got to be this questioning and what I'm looking for.
I think having curiosity planted in you, it can be an insatiable quest to discover things that actually aren't discoverable.
Yeah. It's interesting you say like the curiosity and the insatiability of it, because it was just earlier this year, I was in a plant medicine weekend, and I've been curious about a lot of different things throughout my life. So I've tried different things. This time, the big wisdom that I got was, if you are determined to keep searching, you will keep searching. If you are dedicated to the search, you will keep searching because you're dedicated to it. However, there is a shift from being someone who's digging and someone who actually wants to find. And that was the thing that landed for me. I was like, well, I could spend the rest of my life digging and searching and exploring and being curious. But at some point, do I want to keep doing this, or do I actually want to land somewhere with something? And that was what changed for me.
Tell us a little bit about
Mm.
your professional background and what you find yourself doing now.
I started in marketing, very corporate, very businessy, very what I thought, would bring happiness. So like money and profile and company and name, people under you, people that report to you, that kind of stuff. But I think in my 25-year career, it kind of evolved into things that had my personality. So in leading people, I believe that people should be themselves at work, and that they should be able to ask silly questions, and they should bring the whole selves to work. So very cleanly, it led into the creative industry. I did that for about 15 years in disruption. We used to call it disruption. Now we call it innovation. Actually, I don't know what they call it anymore. They might just call it technology. But essentially, trying to instill small company agility into bigger organizations where people might be a little bit, in a system, trying to think outside the box, be more creative, solve problems, think up new products, services. And then my role in these businesses was to make it happen. But ultimately, businesses are made of people. So it is helping the people do what they need to do. So I was always in roles like COO, program director, chief of staff, that kind of role. And in the beginning parts, it was lovely and amazing. It was really nice to talk to people about their values and how they could hold them in work. But it happened 2, 3 times where the organizations that I was running then got acquired into very big machines. And when with acquisitions, it's just like a road of integration, which gets sunset. So it was a lovely role at the beginning, but the long term of it was there was a lot of burnout, there's a lot of exhaustion, a lot of people living misaligned lives. So wanting to uphold integrity at work, but then also needing to abide by certain systemic rules, shall we say. So after I think maybe about 5 years of managing that part of the pipeline, well, I wasn't very happy. Well, one, I wasn't very happy. My body was telling me it was time to bug out. I was starting to get like body sensations. I was really tired. COVID happened. I was intensely unhappy. And then I decided just to walk away. I was very lucky to be able to take a package and give myself some space and question what was happening. And this was happening around the same time. I don't know, some people might call it midlife crisis when you reach a certain point in your career where you've achieved all the things that you set out to achieve. And you go, okay, well, I'm here. I should feel amazing and I should feel like really great and really accomplished. But why don't I?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, I remember explaining it to, like, I was seeking out coaching at the time. And I remember saying, I feel like my head's butting against something and I just can't pop through. And I don't
Right.
think it's a glass ceiling, or if it is, like, my head is butting up against something. I just don't know how to break through this thing that's sitting up the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the challenge that I hit. And then I figured getting that package and there was something inside, I think, that was like, just walk away for a bit and give yourself some space to have a look at the problem. When you're working in creative industries, sometimes when you really, really try hard to nut out a problem, you think that if you try a bit harder, if you work a bit faster, then you can get there. And actually, sometimes at that point, the best thing to do is to walk away and go for a walk or go bowling with your friends or go fishing or something. So that was what I felt I had to do, just step back from everything and just give myself some space. I knew something wasn't fitting, something wasn't making sense to me anyway. And the position I was in, working with a lot of high profile, like high achieving people. And at that point, I think when I left, I went into coaching because being empathetic, people come to me to ask to chat, advice, mentorship, that kind of stuff. So it was a very natural shift. But I noticed it was really bizarre how people would come to me and say, I have all the things that I'm meant to have. And why do I not feel happy? Why do I, like, it was just like again and again and again. And it was quite jarring. So I was in Singapore at the time, and Singapore is like a very amazing, wealthy, like opportunity rich country with some of the most well-traveled humans in the world. They eat well, they travel well, everything is done well. And it was amazing to me how unhappy, profoundly unhappy these people were. My big question of being aware of values and knowing that I wanted to live a values-led life and seeing people and seeing how, as humans, we think we are living our values, but what we say and what we do, the say-do gap is very big. And there was a big gnawing question. I was like, well, okay, if I'm not all my performances and if I don't have to be all these things, then how on earth am I going to be earning this money that I need to live in this world and live in a house and blah, 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 blah. Like, these questions were, nothing could answer it. So I feel like this moved nicely into this new phase where I knew this couple from like years and years ago. We had a big play date. They have a number of kids, and I was watching them parent their kids. And there was one side of me that could see they were living a really difficult life, in that what they chose to do for work, a lot of service, and their kids and the adoptions that they'd taken on. It's a full life. There was a lot. And I'm watching going,
Right.
wow, that's really messy. That's one side of my brain. The other side of my brain is going, look how they're living with so much integrity and with love and with all these values that people say that they're living in passion, in patience and compassion. I was just really taken aback by this couple, just watching how they lived. And I suppose that's what precipitated also the conversation, the big questions. I asked them this question about gay marriage or gay people, and the wife replied. And there was just something about the way that they were. I was like, my heart opened. There was an opening of the heart. And while I'm asking the questions, they said to me, look, we actually don't know the answer to some of you, but have you heard of this TV show called The Chosen? And we're like, no, we haven't heard. Why does it sound so familiar? And then we realized that my in-laws had sent us the hoodies, and they were branded merchandise, and it was the name The Chosen was actually on them. So we're like, oh, we
Okay.
do know it actually because mom and dad sent us
Yeah.
these hoodies. That's weird. What is it? Like, it's a TV show on Apple. Go have a look. And I was like, okay, fine, let's go try. So we came home and literally just put on the TV show. I think they said, it's a story about Jesus. And immediately I was like, oh, okay. So it's going to be like Moses, the stuff that I used to watch at Christmas time when I was 6. You just have it on TV and, the hand, like that cloud
Yeah.
hand envelopes the moon, when they're all painting their
Yeah.
doors with the blood of the lamb. Anyway, so we started watching this TV show and it was wild. Ian, it was wild. I think it was like either in the first episode or the second episode that we watched. These unanswerable questions that I've been saying that I didn't even know how to answer these. I didn't know how to ask the questions. I'm watching this TV show. Both my husband and I are just crying. And it's not particularly sad. Well, not the episodes that we watched at that time. I'm crying. I can't stop crying. And I'm getting these answers. And if you ask me what the answers are, it's something going to be along the lines of, this is not enough because this is not all that there is. There is more. And what the more is actually sits somewhere else. And
Okay.
the reason why this doesn't make sense is because there's so much more than this. Something like that. I don't even know I don't know. But anyway, I'm watching this TV show and I'm like gobsmacked. Every 6 minutes I'm pausing, going, this is what I've been trying to ask over the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm crying at the same time. And I'm like, this makes so much sense. But I just felt like, oh, there is an answer here. And I don't know what the words are of the question, but the answer is here. This sounds so random. Anyway,
I'm interested. Was there something in the way The Chosen was presented or in the way that Jesus was depicted that heightened the impact of The Chosen for you?
like I've tried to read the Bible over the years and I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. And I have bitched and moaned about it. Like, why don't they update this? Why don't they use real English? Why don't they? And bitched and bitched and bitched and moaned because I'm just not connecting to it. I'm just not getting it. I did not get it. And because the thing is, things would happen on The Chosen, I would go Google and see, is this accurate? Is this what the Bible says? Because I was fact checking as I was going. But the one thing that really spoke to me about The Chosen is, again, maybe this is my brain. I don't know. I could never really feel the essence of Jesus. For me, in the Bible, the words were not enough. As in, I wasn't convinced, like I couldn't see them being alive, if that makes any sense. I'm like, and then he healed them. And I was like, oh, great. Anyone could write. And then he healed them. And then he got up and walked away. Okay. But it didn't seem very convincing. It didn't make sense to me. So I would
Okay.
read it and basically the story would be apart from me. Like the story wouldn't be here in my heart. Watching the show, the way that Jonathan Rumi portrays Jesus, I mean, he's an actor, of course, but I felt like it was, I was like, oh, he was a human and he walked and he had friends and he was hungry and he got frustrated. Like, I was like, oh, he was a human and he was like, he got itchy, like he got cold. He had a bag, he'd get short, like this really weird. I was like, oh, so that was happening on one part where I was watching going, oh, okay, I appreciate now that this human exists. But like up to this point, I had a lot of questions as well about if Jesus existed. Well, obviously he would have had to have a great sense of humor. He would have had to be very engaging, a great public speaker, because how would he engage all these people? And I had certain awarenesses of him, but wasn't really convinced that I was like, that this amazing person existed. I was like, oh, come on, like, really? And I remember I was driving one day, having watched Chosen, and I was like, why am I having such a hard time with you? Like, I just don't. And something occurred to me. What was it? I was driving and I thought, well, I guess I don't believe in Jesus because I just don't believe that someone that kind could exist, or that someone that giving or that loving could exist, because humans don't exist like that, because humans are horrible. They're hard and they're this and they're, and this was going through my head. I'm like, this is why I don't believe that Jesus existed, because humans cannot be like that. And as it was going through my head, I was like, hang on, what am I trying to say about humans? And if I had the opportunity, would I be mean and callous? Or am I trying as best as I can be to be as loving and patient? And then as I was going through this in my head, I was like, oh, no, it is that I don't believe that humans can be this kind. Therefore, I'm saying that Jesus doesn't exist, as opposed to sitting on the premise, if Jesus did exist, and if this kind of kindness did exist, what does that mean for mankind? And then
Yeah.
I was driving in and just started bawling because, this is what
Wow.
I do on Griffith Road and North Calcutta. It's driving and then all of a sudden just start wailing, driving, because I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I understand. But then my friend from school used to say Jesus exists because he's the connecting peace between God and humans. And I remember saying to him, I just don't get it. If you could pray to God, why wouldn't you just pray straight to God? Why did you pray to the Son? Why are you praying to a human? Pray to the God, just pray God. Like what? But at that time, I remember going, oh my God, because up to that point, God had been apart. Like God is like up there and holy and very untouchable by me as
Yes.
a lowly human. And then all of a sudden there's Jesus. And I'm like, oh, this makes God relatable to me. And this makes me closer because Jesus has had the experience of being a human. Yeah, I drove up the driveway running
Yeah.
up to my husband. Oh my God. Like I think I had an epiphany. We finished watching the current season of Chosen or something. And then of course, randomly, synchronistically, or whatever language you want to use, in January, I went to my normal boxing class and there was a girl at my gym who was wearing a small cross on her necklace. And I had been looking for a small cross to wear. I couldn't find a good small cross. It was either fashion, which I didn't want. I wanted a good quality. Anyway, so I happened to see her wearing one. And I asked her, like, oh, I just want to ask about your cross, where'd you get it? And turns out that, so yeah, she said to me, oh, like, are you Christian? And I was like, no, not really, but I just want to. In this conversation, she was like, you should come to me to this church that I go to. And I was like, sure, fine, try something new. And we just watched The Chosen. I came home to Germany and I was like, I met a girl at my gym, she said, I think this was a Saturday. I'm like, she goes to a church in Fairlight. Do you want to try it tomorrow? Jeremy went, yeah, great, sure, let's go. I just walked in with Jeremy, feeling a bit awkward and weird because I feel awkward and weird in churches. And this lovely lady welcomed us and showed us around. And actually, can I share this story? Because this one, I think, yeah. So Anya welcomed us in, and then we kind of selected a couple of seats and we kind of sat there, and then everyone starts singing, and I was like, okay, this is nice, but it's also a bit weird. Christian music and Christians a bit strange, but okay, be open-minded, be open-hearted, whatever. And also, I'm curious. I want to know. And then it just so happened, was it this one? Yeah, it was this one. Two things happened. The pastor who was speaking started talking about marriage, and that was you. And I remember getting a bit tense, going, "Oh, what's he going to say?" Because both of Jeremy and I are in our second marriages. This doom and gloom and judgment is going to come down. And you did such a beautiful message that I remember being really engaged with it, going, "Oh, this is brilliant." Actually, the way that you were saying it made a lot of sense to me about the covenant. And I was like, "Hey, this is yeah, like yeah, this makes a lot of sense. This is good. Okay." So my brain was going, oh no, this is interesting, and I'm open. I want to learn more. And as that was happening, then it so happened this service where they were doing communion. So they were
Mhm.
getting communion ready, and everyone's going in the middle to go get communion. And Jeremy goes because he's been baptized, and I stood there because with my Catholic dad, I know that you're not meant to take communion. So I was standing there, just or sitting, and then Anya, who had welcomed us in, she was in the queue, and she was like, "You're gonna come up?" And I was like, "Well, I can't because I haven't been baptized." And she said, "Oh, like no, that's not here. Come, if you want to, only if you want to." And
Beautiful.
I can't remember if it was then or if I was actually getting communion. Again, I could not stop crying. And I think for me, there was like a desire to, when you take the blood of Christ and the flesh of Christ, it's like you are like not being as you're like accepting the message, or you're wanting to know more of the message, or you're wanting to
Okay.
be closer. And for me, I'm like, I want to know more and I want to, but before it was like, okay, well, I'm kind of outside, I'm not allowed in. And here it's like, oh, but you're open to me wanting to know more. And I'm like, there was something really touching for me. So
Mm.
that cracked open at that moment.
Mm. That's such a good story.
We have gone pretty much every Sunday since that February that we started. We've come pretty much every Sunday. But there was one time when my class finished at 6 o'clock, and I realized that if I drove really fast, I could get there 12 minutes late. And that's what I did. And I found myself gunning on the road, like, what am I doing? I'm speeding to get to church on a Sunday. This is wild. But that's how much I enjoy it.
Mm. It's special. Well, it's not special that you're
Mm.
speeding, but very special
Oh, thank you.
that you love church so much. Gigi, I know this is your story, and obviously Jeremy's got his own story, but I'm intrigued. Where's he at while you're going through all of this? How were you doing this together, or were you doing it together? How would you describe it?
The way that Jeremy and I talk about it is I was on a bike pedaling, Jeremy was on a skateboard doing our different thing. We happened to come together at the same time to the same bus stop. And as we're sitting there at the bus stop, the bus turns up, and then we both got on the bus together. It was something like that. That Sunday, then Alpha, the Christianity 101, as I call it, was starting on Tuesday. When they announced it, both Jeremy and I were like, yeah, we'll be there Tuesday. You know, we're going to be there with our books and we're going to be like paying attention. But I did Alpha 18 years ago, I think, in London. My dad asked me to do it. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, I'm curious to know what makes his life so happy. So I'll go. I think I made it to week 6 and I really didn't like it. It didn't connect, which is fine. But when I reflect on what happened to me in Alpha this time, I feel what was different for me because some of it's different. You know, there's only so much you can do in a 12-week course as well. It's a door opener for you to dip your toe in. But what I reflected on was previously when I'd ask my questions, whatever would get answered, I would have questions again to pick that apart because I didn't really want to know. I really wanted to pull it apart to say, this is why I don't believe. And so that was really when my brain space was at. Whereas
Okay.
this time, when I was asking the questions, I could hear my heart was open.
That's an interesting distinction. There really was a cry within your heart
Mm,
to know the truth.
mm,
And the Lord does promise, He's very faithful in showing Himself to those who earnestly seek Him, which is where you were at. And then at some point, I know in this journey, you were baptized. I believe it was Easter Sunday,
mm.
you and Jeremy. Was that a big decision to make?
When it was said that after the 12 weeks of Alpha, you would be asked if you want to get baptized, I knew when that person said it, I was like, oh no, I'm going to want to. And it was a big decision. I don't take it lightly. But here's the funny thing, it's a big decision and it's not a big decision. It's huge because it was basically like the day of my baptism, I woke up, I felt like I was getting married. It felt like I did on my wedding day. I'm like, there's something huge going to happen today. You know, it's huge. But on the other hand, it wasn't big because I'm like, this is just one step for the rest of my journey. It's actually not to me anyway. I'm like, it's a big thing because I'm making a commitment. But on the other hand, I'd make the commitment anyway. This is just formalizing that I want to walk this path. So therefore, it wasn't a big deal at the same time. And it was the next logical decision because like I want to make a thing of it. I want to commit to it. I want to put a stake in the sand to say I have an opinion here. Before I was too scared to say what my real opinion was.
I'm interested. Have you experienced some pushback from your friends? How have they responded to the change in you?
I've been challenged a lot by friends that when I've told them I've been baptized, they're like, you haven't thought this through. You know, this is too emotional and believing in God is like, it's not logical because you're like in la la land. And the really funny thing about when I pull apart my journey of how I got here, there was a lot of digging to get here. And it wasn't just blind faith. Okay, here I am, and now I believe. Okay, la. I really feel like I've been digging and trying to connect stuff for the longest time. I don't think I could have worked it out straight in my head. I don't think so. If I was 5 years ago in my corporate role where I have no resting space, no time to think because I've got 5 meetings on the go and I need to be up the next morning for this, and I don't think there was much room for me to see it. But when there
Right.
was room and when I learnt about kindness and self-care and self-love and self-forgiveness, some kind of room was made. And in that room, for me, this is the way that I see it, my heart softened and it stopped being so executive.
So, what kind of faith challenges have you had since your baptism?
Okay, the big one that I'm grappling with at the moment is I say I believe in Jesus and I love Jesus and I believe in him and I believe in his word and I say all these things. And yet I have a very real awareness that I don't think I deserve his love. I don't think he should have bloody died for me because I'm not worth it. Like, why such a beautiful human? Why he had to go through so much pain for me? I have real trouble connecting these. I'm like, I don't believe I deserve it. I don't know if God really put me here for a good reason. And I know here, I'm like, no, I'm told that God did, and there's a path, and that I'm perfect and as in lovable. There's that. But if I really dip into it and I feel into myself, I'm like, I'm not really sure. And then I question, I'm like, so if I'm not really sure, if I don't really trust the word of God, can I really say that I believe in God? Because I'm not actually having faith in what he's telling me. So then there's a mismatch. And I love that I'm here because I wouldn't have understood it last year. I would have just continued with the, well, you know, maybe I'm not worth it. And maybe there'll always be this grain of doubt of, but you're not good enough and you have to work hard, and you whereas now I feel like there is a very strong message of, no, but I'm telling you that you don't need to do to prove yourself. You don't need to. You are choosing to do that if you want to, but I'm telling you, you don't need to worry about that. I'm telling you, you just need to be, and everything's going to be okay. In fact, there's so many amazing things you're going to do for people if you stop fucking worrying about whether you're worth it or not. And I feel like that is my big, like, I could say all the lovely heart stuff, and I do believe, but really at that crux of it, I'm like, oh, I have a really hard time with digesting this unconditional love that exists for me. Now that I understand it exists, now it's more about really allowing it to come in and really allowing the digestion of it. That would be probably my biggest grapple.
I'd love to pray for you if that's okay, Gigi. Heavenly Father, I thank you for Gigi. I thank you so much for the journey that she's been on is just so special and so transforming and so long-lasting and life-changing. May every day she experience more and more the great love that you have for her as your Father in heaven towards your daughter. Lord, may you wrap her in that love, keep her secure in that love. And Lord, despite whatever doubts or challenges come along the way, I pray that this love that you have may be a firm foundation under her feet, and that you would guide her, fill her with your spirit, use her life and her witness and her testimony to win many others to you. I pray all this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ian.